Check, check. How we doing? Check, check. How we doing? All right. Sound looks good. Video looks good. Let's get into it. And full disclosure, as you could probably already hear in my voice, just getting over being sick, so this will probably be a more brief live stream today. I do have my tea in front of me. But welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In the stock and crypto markets, we have extreme fear, so definitely be looking out for opportunities. We do see in crypto that as far as this trend, I do like this, that with all the bad news going on, we are seeing some divergence in the fear and greed index. We bottomed out, and we're getting higher lows. We'll see if that materializes into anything, but something to watch for. To put very plainly, watch the 200-day moving average for Bitcoin. So we see greed or fear coming up a little bit towards neutrality. It's not in greed yet, but we see it coming up because the price of Bitcoin is heading up towards that 200-day moving average. If it rejects off this, then I'd be watching for the lower end of this channel and possibly even a flush to 69K. Still looking for a possible flush to 69K. Let's run through some other various charts. We'll take a look at some macro stock charts that I think are important to keep in the back of our mind. And that is that with this new administration trying some new things, is this a sign of things to come? That a recession is on the horizon and that's just the direction we're going? Maybe. Or could this be a pullback in time? And as you can see, that this is not unusual. That when we have inaugurations, we typically see around 100 or so days, give or take, down until we go up. So we'll see. We knew this year was going to be volatile, so just keep that in the back of your mind. But we've been talking about this for a little bit, that the second year of presidential cycles tend to be the worst as far as returns. That lines up with the crypto 4-year cycle, if you believe in that. That also lines up with the yield curve uninverting. The timing of that would place us in 2026 for a possible bottom. Now, could that get stretched out over time? We have to be flexible in our conclusions and wait for the data to show us. Oh my God, I never turn the screens. We have to wait for the data to show us the way. Let me go back and run through that real quick. We are in extreme fear. That is embarrassing. We are in extreme fear on the stock market. Crypto market, you can see that we are coming up. We've had these higher lows. Can't believe I forgot to switch the screen there. And Bitcoin, we need to get above the 200-day moving average, right? That's what we have to watch for. The 200-day moving average has to be turned into support instead of it being resistance. As far as the macro charts that I was showing you before, here's the inauguration dump chart that, again, it's very typical to see 100 days down or sideways. Here's the presidential cycle chart, 2026. That lines up. And even if we do get a recession or a dip, something to keep in mind, to keep in perspective, is that if we are seeing over a 10% drawdown in the S&P 500, that becomes an unusual time in the stock market and times to look for data and certain metrics, indicators to pounce at the opportunities to get in on some of your favorite stocks or cryptos. So 15% drawback only happens once every 2.5 years. 20%, 25%, once or twice a decade. 30% once a decade. 40%, 50%, not as common. So you've probably been hearing and seeing all the talks about maybe there's an upcoming recession. I don't know if there is, if we're just going to see a 10-15% pullback, something like 1998, before ripping up into newer all-time highs, bubble territory? There might be. But if we do get those dips, you can see that doesn't happen very often. I'll get into what indicators I look for in bearish markets to play it safer, to get confirmation on when to buy instead of just buying and seeing something fall another 40-50%. This is also important to keep in mind, and this is the Shiller P ratio over the last 50 years. And right now, frankly, this says that stocks are expensive. Now you see all the bad news going on lately. This is that pullback we've had. But you will see that since the great financial crisis, what's been happening here? I wish I could draw a trend line here, but if you can see, the low here would be around the 30s range, maybe somewhere around the low 30s. So we might get a pullback here before spiking up one more time. We'll see. We want to track all this data and be flexible to whatever outcomes may happen. All right, let's take a look at seasonality. And do keep in mind that from December through March tends to already be a meh sort of time for crypto. And what we are looking for is April to come through for us. April is the second most bullish month for crypto overall. And May's not so bad either. What would that be, the fourth best month? But there's no denying that October and December, the best times for crypto, but April is not far behind either. April and May. Man, the man, always good seeing you, dude. Happy Friday. Bonked Father is here. Heck yeah. If you didn't catch the beginning, you probably hear it in my voice, getting over a little illness, feeling better. It's not going to be an hour and a half long live stream, but I'm going to try to tough it out for you guys. Got my tea. We're going to talk about all things crypto, stuff I'm watching for, because we do have extreme fear. What's the VIX showing us? I can't wait to get into that. As many of you are here to look at altcoins, something to keep in mind is the Bitcoin cycle. When we get alt season, to put this most frankly, it is when Bitcoin is too expensive to buy. When Bitcoin has topped or is topping and is too expensive to buy, that's when you see that rotation. I don't believe Bitcoin has topped yet. I think there's a couple indicators and charts that back that up. Now, by the time Bitcoin does top this cycle, is that going to be later this year, 2 years from now? I don't know. But that's my theory, and I'll show you why that is. And I've been using the same chart. Obviously, this has evolved. We've seen more than a 15% pullback, obviously. But overall, this is showing bull market. So that's why we don't see anything here in 2019. This is just a downward market, according to this chart. But there were like 30% pullbacks. And so it is normal on the way to the top to get these large pullbacks. And what does Bitcoin spend more time doing? Going up or consolidating? You all know the answer to that. It spends more time consolidating. But when it has these big moves up, it happens really fast. And then people get pissed at themselves for not selling. But I don't believe the true top is in yet. But we are being tested, that is for sure. This is the alt season index, and nothing has changed here, guys. Higher lows, higher highs, still higher lows, structure still the same. Man, the man, thank you for us little folk. I don't consider you guys little folk. There's mutual respect all around. We're all trying to make money from these markets together. I don't consider myself be better, smarter, anything like that. My goal is to grow this community where there's a shared mutual respect, where we listen to one another and we learn from each other. So that is something I'm going to try to keep reminding myself about. I don't want to be one of those crypto YouTubers that tries to talk down to my followers like I'm an expert. But yeah, point is, you're not little folk to me. I am very appreciative. And exciting news. So this channel, it's still a newerish channel, and you've probably seen the commercials that pop up. I put I put the ads on as infrequent as possible, but I am close to getting my first $100 paycheck from Google, and that's all thanks to you guys. So a little extra money, all thanks to you guys, so very much appreciated. All because y'all are watching. All right, let's look at the rainbow chart. So the rainbow chart, you can see that since this bottom, again, what has happened when Bitcoin has these big moves up? It goes down and sideways, and it goes down a zone or two. Comes up. This was, a large move. This little move right here. This was right when the ETF, the Bitcoin ETF, was getting approved. There was about a 20% pullback right after, and then we ripped up from 40K to 74K. But again, we went from 74K all the way down to like in the 50s. Then we got to 109K, and now we're in the 80s, touching into the 70Ks. So with this green band, you can see there that the bottom is at around 72K. That is really close to where the 236 low to high fib is. And I'll show you that on the chart here. So we zoom out. Here we go. From the very bottom to the top, if you draw a fib from the high or from the low to the high, the 236 is right at around 69K. So that kind of lines up with what the rainbow chart is indicating for us, that maybe we see prices go down to the lower 70Ks. But we have a couple things going on. Overall, this is a downward structure in many ways. So we have the 200-day moving average as resistance right now. Don't be surprised. Bitcoin's going to challenge this, but I don't see any indication yet that it's just going to break through this. I would expect more lows to the lower end of this channel, maybe even a wick down, and then see some support here before going up. That's something I'm looking for. Part of the reason being is we just went through this last year. Let's draw that a little bit better. So after that March top, you can see that Bitcoin, this is it is a nicer, quicker recovery here, but it got down to the 50-week moving average in that 236 and got bought up really fast. You can see there's that 236 fib. And this wick, whenever you get these wicks, not candle bodies, it means that the price of that asset is being bought up faster or sold down faster if you have wicks above, of course. So when it was hitting this level, it is being sold down hard. So right here you can see that the 236 and the 50-week moving average has a line in the sand. But right now, the 50-week moving average, it is being bought up nicely. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen next week. Next week, are we going to get another large candle just sitting here? Are we going to get a doji, undecided, another move down? Maybe even get somewhere around the 236 and get a wick down to the 100-week moving average. So right now, speaking of moving averages, we're still bullish, okay, for a couple reasons. We're above the 50-week. No, we're at the 50-week. The 50-week is a line in the sand. But here's one thing that is concerning here. This is the start of cracks forming, and that is we have the 50-day moving average doing a negative cross under the 100-day. So don't be surprised to see some negative price action here in the near future. I would not be surprised. What I do want to see, though, is if this continues, what's going to happen when the 50-day gets to the 200-day, because that's a death cross, as many of you may or may not know. So in the past, you can see here when we had that big flush in August, the 50-day got to the 200-day, and it came back up. But when the 50-day has gotten underneath it, you can see that here in September 23. The 50-day has not gotten underneath the 200, or really headed in that direction. But last time it did, that was back here after the top. So going back to the last cycle, we did have that mid-cycle top in June of 19, and we did see the 50 cross under the 200 twice here before going up. Obviously, you can discount this if you want. That's the COVID times. But let's say we don't have COVID black swan event. we still had that happen here, where the 50 crossed under the 200. Now, as far as looking for bullish indicators, I'll give you two, and one of them, they both show the same thing pretty much, but the MACD, the moving average convergence divergence, when we take a look at this on the weekly, every time the MACD turns green this cycle, you can see big moves happen. Big moves when it flips positive. Okay, here we weren't done bottoming yet, but that was the time when we were getting heavy bullish divergence on the RSI. And so even though we went lower from here, we ultimately did go higher. So I'll count that too. You can disagree if you want. So the last 3 times the MACD has flipped positive has been very good. Now, right now it's negative. It's negative as heck. But we want to see when this is going to start curling up. Now, you may be wondering, how long does this MACD stay red for? And I'm not going to count these little guys in here, but from the top in 2021, that bear market, the MACD was bearish or red for almost 240 days. Here where it started to turn red, I'll include the little guy, 133 days. It's about 4 months. 4 months, the MACD on the weekly was bearish. Here, this is the shortest time so far, 161. Actually, not. Sorry, I thought that'd be shorter. It wasn't. 161 days, so 5 or so months. Where are we at right now? Well, we're not near those yet. We're at a month. So the MACD might be negative for a bit. It might be negative at least through the summer. Maybe we'll see a positive bounce soon, and that would line up somewhat with the seasonality because, well, you can see this. June through September just sucks for crypto. It's the worst stretch. December through March, it's a little bit meh, but the summertime sucks. So maybe we see a little bit of a spike in April and May, and then we just kind of stay low for a bit. That doesn't mean price has to stay. That does not mean price has to continue going down. That could just mean price kind of chop sideways. Doesn't necessarily have to fall off a cliff. Let's take a quick look at the VIX. So something to keep an eye on is the VIX, and this is the volatility of the S&P 500. Anytime the VIX is getting around these 30 levels, I'd say high 20s and higher, that's the time to watch out. That is when we have very volatile times. Now, you guys know that in 2021, we still had a market bubble up and get really expensive. So all because we get high volatility does not mean the market can't go up. But oftentimes we can see these major VIX spikes coincide with local bottoms. So do keep an eye on that. If the VIX starts to stay up higher for longer, and you can see here the VIX, technically speaking, it was under these moving averages and it was bearish. But right now, it is bullish as heck. And if it's going to stay elevated, then I'm wondering, this has been one scenario I've been looking at for a bit with the Fed cutting rates at 25 basis points. In the late 90s, 2000s, the dot-com bubble, we have the AI bubble now. However, we've also been dealing with inflation and other issues that wasn't as present during the early 2000s. But you can see the VIX was just kind of hanging at a range in the high 20s. It was very volatile. But after 1998, the market still had a year or so to go before topping. So we can have high volatility and still see the markets go up. Here's that dot-com bubble you can see from September, October 1998. It still went up a bit. So we may see a detachment from all reality for a little bit. And if you're looking for a 4-year cycle, you're hoping for something like this. You're hoping for something like 1998, where the market's just kind of detached from reality, even though the writing's on the wall and people are like, whoa, Trump is great. Everything's going well. The stock market's resilient. Is that going to happen? I don't know. But even just zooming out, you can see the S&P's been in this ascending channel for a while. And I mean, even the S&P, it's hanging on to that 50-week moving average. But if it does start to go higher and get to these elevated, stupid, expensive prices, you're looking at the mid 6,000s to the 7,000 range. At the beginning of the video, I talked about some writing on the wall for recessions being on the horizon. We see that in the crypto cycle. Okay, we see that in the Shiller P ratio. Stocks are expensive. There's no denying it. Something to also remember is that when the yield curve uninverts, we typically have, I mean, this is the dot-com bubble and great financial crisis. We typically have almost 600 days, give or take, until we get a bottom there. So that is something to watch for. And right now, after we've uninverted, let's say we get like 600, we'll stretch it out a little bit. I mean, you can see that's middle of 2026. This can sometimes be a nice leading indicator. Let's take a look at this on the log scale. So that's breaking down there too. Let's get rid of this trend line. So this is the percent of stocks above their 200-day average. Whenever we get dips like this, that can tend to show us local bottoms in the market as well. So I was looking for any sort of structure, trend lines. I'm not sure we quite see anything there. Maybe we have something in the form of a fib. Use our trusty golden ratio indicator. And I guess I wouldn't say there's really anything there. So if you guys do have TradingView, I highly recommend whatever tools, indicators you're using, just play around with them. Sometimes you find things that you can see the charts respecting it. Sometimes there's nothing, and that's okay. Now, I've seen people talking about quantitative easing. When will the Fed stop quantitative tightening? The Fed is in a QT cycle right now. Last time they ended QT and went to quantitative easing, you can see that the U.S. central bank balance sheet, you can pull up this indicator, or this chart, USC BBS, when it hit the 100-month moving average, that's when we bounced. And you can see it's looking for a landing there at that 100-month moving average. So something to watch for. But outside of that, let's get back into crypto. And let's take a look at some of our other macro indicators to look at alt season. We may even take a look at some alts or miners. But how is Bitcoin dominance doing right now? Bitcoin dominance overall, it's still bullish. It's still above the 50-week moving average. And it was chopping sideways for a month, kind of doing nothing. And now we've had a positive movement in this direction. We got this recent spike a month or so ago where Bitcoin dominance went to 64%. I've been waiting to see Bitcoin dominance get to that level again and then see what it does. Whether it gets rejected and then this could be a possible top, or if it blasts through there. So Bitcoin dominance, it's been loving this 20-week moving average on the way up. It got down to the 50-week, and I was excited here. I said, this may be a local top for Bitcoin dominance. I was ready to celebrate, but Ethereum Bitcoin was telling us otherwise. And we just continued up higher. So that's what we have going on for Bitcoin dominance. When we're looking for alt season, we are seeing a massive rotation from Bitcoin when it's too expensive, when it's topping, when it's already topped. That's when we see this rotation. Okay? Bitcoin is not topped yet, in my opinion. So we have not seen any sort of rotation. Now we are getting there. I mean, you could take a look at multiple indicators and you can see that we are overbought. I wonder what this looks like on the monthly. I mean, that kind of shows it right there too. I wonder what the regular or stochastic RSI shows us. I haven't looked at this. So yeah, even the stochastic overbought, thing's getting ready to flip down. Once it does, that's when we see Bitcoin dominance dive. And that's when you see alts do well. Now, this can go on for a while. You can see that both last cycles, even when it got oversold, we were still a ways away. Here there was bullish divergence, and the bottom wasn't until dominance was on its way up on the stochastic. And here you can see we had a false breakdown and then the true one. So do not be surprised to see this take a while. Let's look at the MACD and the regular RSI. So on the monthly, this is yet to break down. Okay, MACD is a very nice indicator, and the RSI on the monthly. On the monthly, it's just bullish as heck right now. But if we go to the weekly, there's no doubt we are seeing, you see these lower highs and lower lows as the chart is moving up. That is bearish divergence. Eventually it will diverge. It hasn't happened yet, but that is something to watch. Justin, I like your thoughts and technical analysis. Could you take a look at Algorand? Be happy to. Let me just do that now. After we take a look at Algo, the Gary Gensler crypto, we will go back into looking at various altcoin indexes. All right, I know I've charted this before. All right, sweet. So this one I charted from high to low. And what do we see with Algo? So right now it is hanging around at the 236. It is nice seeing that candle body hang out there. So possible area, I'd say definite area to look for some dips. Let's take a look at the moving averages. It's underneath the weekly moving averages, so that doesn't really apply. So whenever we are getting bearish in stocks or crypto, I like to have confirmation. We have the 236 fib. That's one nice thing. What do we have with the stochastic? The stochastic could be bottoming out. It could. But, I would wait for confirmation from Bitcoin overall. If Bitcoin continues to go negative, this can just like right here. It could look like it's flipping positive, and then, same with the 236, it can be lost. And if we experience something like this, you could see Algo come down to these prices at around 10 cents. So another 50% drop. There is a little trend line there. But I do like how we have these higher lows. Okay. So you do notice that we start to come out of this as we are getting into more of the shaded area, even though this went a little bit down. Some people like to have confirmation when we're getting into the shaded area. Buy sell signals. We don't have anything yet, but this is on the weekly. If you were just buying weekly buy signals, that one would have been expensive. But overall, you would have been buying at this price or lower 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of the 9 times. Even 9 of 10, 10 of 11, But here we were obviously in a bear market trend. So, I would have waited to buy when we were over here personally. But if you like this fib level, if you like fibs, here's one area. But I would be getting mentally prepared to possibly get it at 10 cents if I were you, just in case things get worse as far as price action, and that is always possible. All right, let's take a look at total 3 before we take a look at total 3 divided by Bitcoin. So total 3, something I've noted is last cycle, once total 3 was breaking out, we didn't get alt season until it went from the 1618 to the 2618. Now, eventually it did go higher, okay, almost to the 3618, but we haven't even broken out of that yet. And so we tested that all-time high. And right now, let's put our moving averages back on. Excuse me. We are seeing total 3 hang out at this 50-week moving average. So that is nice. And maybe it can get down to the 618 if it gets a little more bearish. I wouldn't be surprised we got that 100-week moving average. But right now, this is just bearish. And if we take a look at total 3 divided by Bitcoin, there's various alt season indicators. We have Bitcoin dominance, and then we have total 3 divided by Bitcoin, which is the total market cap of everything outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum. But you can see this. I do consider this to be somewhat encouraging. There's a couple charts where I'm wondering, are we possibly bottoming? I showed you Bitcoin dominance, how maybe that 64% could be the line in the sand. It could be. I'm not saying it is. But I do like seeing that this is rounding out. It may get down to the 618 at around 40%. So that's saying that all the cryptos outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum are about 40% of the market cap against Bitcoin. If we take a look at ETH-Bitcoin, this shows us that Ethereum is 14% of the market cap of Bitcoin. And we see these areas last cycle where, we're looking horizontally. Because we're breaking lower, next area, I'm looking for that 12%. I think the Ethereum Bitcoin pair does have lower to go, in my opinion. It might even get as low as 10%, but see what happens if we continue lower at around 12%. I've tried drawing different fibs in here, and this thing just looks, no matter how you slice it, it just looks bearish. You can go from any fib you want, breaking under the 236 for multiple metrics. Or if we go low to high, we were looking at that 786, but here it is only a wick, so we haven't totally broken under it yet, but you will see that 12%. It's right around the 888, so that's why I'm watching for that area a little bit. But Ethereum Bitcoin is the most bearish looking chart to me. This isn't non-typical for Ethereum either. Ethereum can, last 2 cycles, it can suck for a while. Here Ethereum Bitcoin got to 13% before the next month we ripped into alt season. And so I'm still looking for possible 11K Ethereum at our next cycle top, whenever that is. Because if we trust this trend line, then if Ethereum has anywhere around 40 to 50% of Bitcoin's market cap, well, you guys can just do the math there. Let's say Bitcoin gets to 3 trillion, and that would be 155K. You can double check my math. If Ethereum got to 1.5 trillion or even a little less, it would be at 11K. Now, we have a long ways to go before we get there, but I remember last cycle when Ethereum was at around $300, very few people thought it could get to 5K. So ask yourself, why is there all this FUD in the market over alt season not happening and Ethereum being bad? This is why, because we're at the opposite end of the charts. Now, taking it a step further, this is a chart, I kind of like the total 3 Bitcoin chart. This one offers me some hope as well. We take the total crypto market cap outside the top 10, okay, and we divide that by Bitcoin. So to be clear, we are taking all the cryptos outside these guys. Bitcoin, ETH, a few stable coins, Solana, Binance, XRP, Cardano, Dogecoin. We take everything else, and divide it by Bitcoin. This is what we got. It is also around 14% of Bitcoin's market cap. So similar market cap to where ETH would be at right now. The total market cap of others is similar to what ETH is, which is at around 233 billion. But what do we have here? We have this nice channel, and so far we've not broken under that channel. It is bearish, and it might test this. Well, our fib's off log now. Let's see what fib it would test, because we're in between prices. Might test that 382, but some people believe that after you have a move up, if you're still above the 382, even if you're under the 50, that you're not bearish completely yet, that you can still see a big bounce. Now, target-wise, I mean, if you believe in this channel, you would be looking at somewhere around the 1618 or the 2618, which would be crazy. The 1618 says that all the altcoins outside the top 10 have 50% of the market cap of what Bitcoin does. If you get up to that 2618, that means all the altcoins have 75% or over 70% of the total market cap of Bitcoin. Imagine if that happens. If that does, then you will be happy to be positioned in various alts, should you be in the right ones. That's a whole nother discussion. But taking this look overall, Ethereum, Bitcoin, that chart to me still looks pretty bearish. Not a fan of it as far as having hope in the near term. But others, Bitcoin, total 3 Bitcoin, Bitcoin dominance, I think these show us something that maybe we are getting close to somewhat of a bottom. Maybe. It's also important to take a look at Tether dominance. Now, if you don't know what Tether is a stable coin. It always has a value of around $1. So if crypto is volatile and you don't want to lose money, you convert that's my cat's feeder in the background. You convert your crypto to Tether to retain the value of your money. Now, 5.3% of all money in crypto is in Tether. That's why it's a Tether dominance. But you can see here, I just drew a lazy trend line. This doesn't have to be anything. Is this going to be a local top before we come back down? Because what happens is when we get near this trend line, that is where the local tops have been. This top we had at the end of last year, early this year. Okay, the 2017 top. These local tops before we had big corrections. The double top last cycle. Okay, this was the March top. And then here we got down to that trend line as well. Now, eventually, this will break under this massive trend line no matter how much you try to adjust it. That will happen. But when we are getting down here in Tether dominance, those are very bullish times in crypto. So I'm just wondering, is this trend line, I'm trying to give some optimistic news. Is this trend line possibly signaling that we could head back down? Let's take a look at Ethereum, and then I want to go back to Bitcoin because there's a couple things I didn't talk about. Let's take a look at ETH on our log scale. So I don't know why this trend line's here. Let's get that out of here. All right, Ethereum. You can see here that overall, let's put our moving averages back up. It's losing that 200-week moving average, okay? Possibly coming back down to the 382. Let's take a look at the monthly moving averages. So you can see that 50-month moving average. That as bearish as things got in the bear market from the peak last cycle, it only lost that 50-month moving average briefly. But there's no doubt it would have been underneath there at this time. So what do we see here? The 100-month moving average. So if ETH is anywhere in this range, 1,400 to 2,000, I mean, I think that's discount value for ETH. Now, right now, I want to just buy it because it's just plainly dipping. I would wait for confirmation with some of those indicators I talked about before, but I'd be watching these levels. Let's go back over to Bitcoin. So for Bitcoin, I talked about how I believe it hasn't topped yet. And here's a couple reasons why. First of all, rainbow chart. If you care at all about this, it's fine if you don't agree with it. You can see we have not been technically overbought as far as this rainbow chart goes, the log regression chart. We haven't been as overbought as we have in the past. Now, if you are mega bullish and you're waiting to get up into these red zones, and I know some people who are, they believe Bitcoin can go to 400K at the end of this cycle. I don't, and that's fine if you disagree. But that's what they'd be looking for, 3 to 400K Bitcoin. I don't believe that's going to happen. I'm looking at more of this trend and how we get to these lower color bands. And I'm still waiting for the orange color bands. Somewhere between 130 to 180K, maybe 200K at best. And I think the old rainbow chart shows us this even better from where the tops are. Now, they had to correct the old rainbow chart because it made a newer low, and they had to make adjustments. I still think it's a good chart, though, but what you definitely see here is these tops keep diminishing. This is where we're getting the log regression. And so even if you believe in the old rainbow chart and the rate of this regression, that would still show somewhere around 180, 190K. So that's one metric. One reason I believe Bitcoin has not topped yet and why we haven't had alt season yet. I just showed you a number of charts that showed the alt season or the altcoin charts, total 3 divided by Bitcoin, Bitcoin dominance, ETH Bitcoin, others Bitcoin. I showed you all those charts to show we are at the opposite end for that alt season cycle. We need to see those reverse. Now we saw bearish divergence on Bitcoin dominance. We saw ETH Bitcoin still needing to put in the bottom. We saw others Bitcoin lower end of the channel. We saw total 3 Bitcoin trying to form somewhat of a bottom, a landing. So we are at the opposite end of the spectrum, which would also be reason to believe that Bitcoin has not topped yet. It has not become too expensive to buy and then get that rotation where you see those charts get bullish, or in Bitcoin dominance case, get bearish. Now, if we also take a look at a log regression indicator for Bitcoin, you can see the last 2 cycles, we get pretty high up in this log regression indicator. This is a lot like our rainbow chart, but it's a little more narrowed down. And let's say you believe the top is going to be next week. Why not? Then you might be looking for, at best, 190K Bitcoin. Now, we got to the lower area of this, but we did not get anywhere near as high as the last 2 cycles. So, stretching this out, maybe you believe the top's coming later this year. This is at around 150K Bitcoin, okay? Now, we keep talking about 150K Bitcoin. Let's use our golden ratio Fibonacci retracement tool. And I want to show you something here, and that is that the fib extension, the 2618, is at 155K, which lines up pretty well. Now, we might get a little bit higher. We might get up into this area, but I'm not looking for anything 3618 or higher. The reason why is last cycle, Bitcoin topped in this range, in this fib scale. The cycle before, we were at even higher fibs. Every cycle, we reach lower fib levels. Now, we've had inflation. Our dollars are worth 25% less than they were last cycle. So maybe we get 25% higher and somewhere around 190K. All right, you can even map that out. We can take our 155K. Let's adjust for inflation. Boom. You get close to that 200K mark. Does that make you happy? So that's one way to look at it. Now, zooming in here, I think this is important to see for y'all, that when Bitcoin, we have too many things going on. When Bitcoin got to this 1618 fib, we never had candle bodies close above it. So we've just been coming down. Similar thing happened in March of 24. Yes, it was a new all-time high, but we only saw wicks get above, never candle bodies. And once we did, that's when we got to the next fib. So Bitcoin needs to do whatever it's doing here, consolidate, maybe even get down to that 236 fib I showed you earlier, low to high, and then maybe we go up for the later part of this year. But Bitcoin has not been moving as aggressively as 2017. In 2019, after that mid-cycle top, obviously we had COVID, recession scares, and then we had money printing, and we just went vertical. Okay, so we're not in those conditions yet. And so right now, Bitcoin's just stair stepping. Big move up, sideways for a while. Big move up, a little bit down, big move up, sideways for a long time. We spend more time consolidating, going sideways than we do going up. So do not be surprised to spend more time here. So we have the log regression, we have the 2618 fib, we have the rainbow chart. I'll give you another bullish indicator. I think this one also is one of my favorites and just kind of confirms things. By the way, if you were wondering what these lines are, you can plainly see the red lines are where the Bitcoin tops. I've zoomed in on the daily. The white lines are the halvings. Okay. Now this red line is a little different. I should probably give it a different color here just so I don't confuse anyone. So this shows us that, I want to make sure I'm saying everything right. The average amount of time it takes from every halving to the next peak would be in around August, if you believe in time scales. The average from the bottoms to the next peak, 850 days. We've already passed that time. So I've seen a lot of crypto people out there on X, on YouTube. They go by these time scales. They're like, well, it took this amount of time before, and it's got to do this again. I don't believe in that. It's a data point. It's interesting. But I think that can give us a range. It's nothing to base it off of. Anyways, let's go to this ultimate RSI on the monthly. I think this is something else that might give you hope. So if we take our trend line, now we can take it horizontally and say, you know what, last cycle sucked. We didn't reach that trend line. Maybe this cycle we will. Bitcoin is not done topping yet. Okay. Now, you know me, I like to be somewhat conservative and realistic. Let's just even line that up. I mean, even the ultimate RSI is showing us that as far as this cycle, we have not hit this trend line yet. And so I think there's a lot to say that there is still room to run this cycle. I know there's people already who are already packing it in. And ask yourself, why are people packing it in? You saw the altcoin charts. Okay, the altcoin charts have yet to confirm they bottomed against Bitcoin. Others, Bitcoin, total 3 Bitcoin, ETH, Bitcoin, they have yet to confirm they've bottomed. Okay? Crypto is in extreme fear. The stock market's in extreme fear. That is why people are bearish and why people are saying it's over. So at these times is when I look for opportunities. Now, let me be clear here. Like, you have to take what the market gives you. And if the market stays above the 50-week moving average, and right now, Bitcoin is, the S&P is, so far, knock on wood. Let's go to the NASDAQ. Which one do I want to do here? You can do the NASDAQ 100. Oh, let's do this one. The NASDAQ kind of breaking under, so that'd be something concerning. If we see the markets getting under the 50-week, my strategy changes. Doesn't mean I stop buying, because again, let me go back to this chart. If we get in these massive corrections, you want to get those discounts because they don't stick around very long. Again, keep that in perspective. But if we turn bearish, my strategy changes from buying the moving averages and the fibs. So let me do that right here. Maybe I'll show you fibs in a couple ways. So, this will be fibs off log, and maybe you're looking for the NASDAQ to get somewhere down here. Okay. Now the fibs, they don't show on that chart anything good. Low to high. I mean, it's already under the 236, but for argument's sake, let's say we were back here a week ago and we are still technically bullish. We're at or above candle body wise the 50 week. We got down to a fib. That's a buy the dip opportunity. You see a discount, boom, you can get it. When I start to see candle bodies getting under that bullish trend, the 50-week moving average, I turn more defensive. I don't just buy the moving averages and the fibs, but I wait for confirmation because we could get falling knives. So putting that on something like Bitcoin, if Bitcoin was getting under the 50-week, that's when I'm going to rely more on the stochastic, the MACD. Okay, make sure they're flipping positive. We talked about the MACD earlier, how when it's flipped positive, that's been very good. Okay. I also use my buy sell signals. Well, they're not mine technically, but I use different buy sell signal indicators on the weekly and the monthly. When we're in a bullish trend over the 50-week, I'm looking at the weekly and the daily time frame. I'm more aggressive. When we're bearish, and I don't know how quick things will fall off, I want to have confirmation. So that's a way that I alter my strategy. All right, we've talked about crypto a bit. Let's get into some altcoins. Van the Man, if you're still here, let's get into some bonk. We have the bonk father in the chat. Let's get him his TA because I appreciate him. Oh boy. This sucks for bonk, I'll tell you that. So bonk, we have this upward channel and boom, it is just breaking down. Now this is not the oldest bonk chart. I think we have older ones on, is it MEXC? Yeah. Yeah, we were looking at this last time. So bonk is breaking through that floor. And it is getting underneath this price action here. So bonk could go down a ways, to put it plainly. If this trend continues, do not be surprised to see bonk fall off a cliff. Now, I would not be touching bonk with the 10-foot pull at this point unless we got really good confirmation for Bitcoin, first of all. And then I'd wait to see that in bonk. But breaking underneath this structure here, that is very concerning. We have a little bit of price action there. Let's move it on the daily. Maybe this will give us some hope. So, yeah, it's not looking good at all. You want to see what happens here at around the 382 and right here. So 50 is 552 to 50650. I would set an alert, see what happens here, and watch for, because if it breaks underneath, God knows how low bonk could go. So I do like bonk's potential. This cycle, I'm looking at bonk and Pepe to possibly be this cycle's SHIB or Pepe. But again, guys, remember, we don't really see those big moves until we're getting close to here. And then you see this stupid meme coin crap rip up. So any memes I would not be putting a lot of money into. These are considered educated gambles. Now, I do like educated gambling. And if I see good structure in Bitcoin and I see possible turnaround, good levels, I might buy some bonk. But right now, yeah, I'm not excited about that. Let's take a look at Doge because I know I have some Doge fans in the chat. How is Doge doing? So Doge got this nice little, we're on the daily. Let's see what the weekly is. Got this nice little bounce on the daily. But you see the 382 and the 200 week moving average right there at around 14 cents. Seems like a magnet right now. So I don't think this is done. I'd be watching for 14-cent Doge or 13-cent Doge. Let's see if XRP is still holding up. Now XRP, in my opinion, being at its 1618 before, I thought this is a good profit-taking area at around that $3 mark. Now it's still above its 20-week moving average. It's wicked down to its high from 2021. It was higher in 2017, but Watch to see if they can hold up here. Right now, XRP looking pretty good. I wouldn't be buying it though. Not after it spent all that time here between 40 and 60 cents. And then all of a sudden it just popped for a 5-6x out of nowhere. So I would not be buying XRP. And if you did, my question to you would be, well, one, what's the point? But two, what's your price target? Because XRP hit that 1618. You're buying hoping for maybe a 2x. And keep in mind, XRP has a market cap of $136 billion. Do you believe XRP can be close to a $300 billion asset? Not saying it can't, but risk reward wise for crypto, I think you have much more potential even in Ethereum. And I'm not even a huge Ethereum fan. But as far as where the charts are right now, I think there's more value to be gotten in Ethereum than XRP. I don't think XRP is safe here at all. So that's my opinion on XRP. Let's take a look at, we had someone ask about Cardano last time around. So Cardano coming down to, this one's been holding up overall pretty decently on the fibs and the moving averages. Kind of like XRP a little bit. So we have all these moving averages and we have the 382 fib at around 60 cents. You can see that got bought up twice really nicely. Once off the 200, once off the 100, now off the 50 week moving average. But this is overall in a downtrend, okay, lower highs. So I'd be willing to be patient, wait for at least 60 cent Cardano, in my opinion. And if you do have any requests, comment below. Happy to take a look at some cryptos for you. But I'll probably be wrapping it up here shortly. AVAX. Now we can stretch out these bottoms here for this channel. AVAX is at that 236, and it's at this channel if we're looking at these points here. So I don't hate this level for AVAX just for some discounted value, but what is Bitcoin doing right now? Is Bitcoin negative? Yes. So, that I would pause on altcoins unless you are seeing some more potential positive news for Bitcoin. But overall, if you love AVAX and you're like, you know what, I have a little money, I'll chip in on it. I don't hate this level, but we don't have confirmation yet. So that is something I'd watch out for. Let's take a look at Chainlink. Chainlink is one of the altcoins I like, and I got an alert that it got down to its $12 mark. So I do like that area for Chainlink. Now, I know I said earlier that I like to buy more defensively with confirmation. Chainlink's one of those where I was excited to see his fib again. So I don't mind getting it here around $12 mark. We'll see if that bites me in the butt. It probably will. But you definitely see this trend line. We've been seeing wicks underneath it. So I'm just going here from the very bottom. We haven't broken underneath it, but we've been seeing that happen in a lot of different alts. Right, Van the Man's laughing in the comments. I'm glad you're taking things well. I hope you don't have too much bonk right now because that's brutal. Be right back. Give me 10 seconds. All right, I'm back. Let's take a look at Fetch. Fetch is one that was coming down to these levels that I thought might be interesting. And man, that channel, it just broke right underneath it. I mean, we could try to stretch it out, give it every benefit of the doubt as we can. And you could say, yeah, technically it's still in that channel. But it does look like it's coming down to that 618, 65 area in the 36 to 40 cent area. So, not looking good for a lot of alts. All right, finished my tea there. How's Jasmine doing? Jasmine finally lost that 3. RP notwithstanding, they're still holding up, but I would not be buying them right now. Bitcoin not looking too great right now either, but we're seeing alts really suffer out there. And so do wait for confirmation, but we are in unique times right now. We're in unique times where we can look for these to recover and when they'll recover. Is Jasmine coming down to here? I don't know. But I'd say now's the time to be patient and keep an eye on these. We have extreme fear out there. Okay. Showed that the NASDAQ's breaking down. That is concerning. Is the S&P and crypto coming next? Sure. But, there's ways that we can buy defensively against that to try to manage our risk. But in these times, it's okay to be patient so you're not catching a falling knife, as excited as these dips are. Do wait to see what Bitcoin is doing overall. All right, let's take a look at some mining stocks. Let's take a look at Marathon Digital Holdings. And so I like miners because we can see their balance sheets, which is really awesome. I've talked about this before, but you can go over to Market Watch. Great website, by the way, for many reasons. But you can't see balance sheets for altcoins. Miners behave like altcoins. So if you like miners, and it's okay if you don't, I've heard the arguments for and against. I get it. But I see some good balance sheets out there. Assets to liabilities, very positive on some of these. So they're more quote-unquote recession-proof. Knock on wood. I mean, nothing truly is. But if you have more of a positive asset to liability balance sheet, it's better. But what do we have for merits at the lower end of this channel? And maybe like we saw for AVAX and Bonk, it could break under that channel at any time. We're seeing that start to happen. But, there's no question these things are bearish right now. They're in these discounted territories. But I like some of these miners, and I have a budget, some of which I pull and I save when there's more confirmation, some of which I don't mind buying at these levels, quite frankly. Let's run through a couple more. Take a look at Riot. Riot still has a ways down to go. I'm still waiting for this 236 at around the mid to high $6 area. But man, that's brutal. From that recent high in the channel, it's fallen off over 50% at its max. So if a month ago, I was saying, watch these moving averages, watch this fib. If it breaks, we might see $7. That felt kind of weird saying when we were at around 11, 12 bucks, and now here we are. So, no, it sucks to see if you're in some Riot. But when we get confirmation, and again, things I look for confirmation, the stochastic, still bottoming out. The MACD, what is this doing? Just started being very negative. We're not seeing that rounding process yet, okay? Heck, even the RSI. Sometimes I feel I get myself, I get too far away from the RSI. But now's the time to be eyeing the RSI, the regular RSI, because stuff's probably getting overbought and oversold. Going back over to crypto. I mean, we have not seen these oversold levels at all this cycle since this bottom here and this bottom here. Hey, you want some more bullish news? This is the most oversold we've been, tying with 2 other times a cycle. I'm just looking at that now. Now you can say there's bearish divergence here, and this is more likely going lower. But what's going to happen when it flips positive? So, all right. I think that'll do it for today. Don't see any other comments. My voice is doing okay. I want to get out while my voice is still all right. Give it time to recover. Plus, we have St. Patrick's Day weekend to celebrate. And I need to recover for that so I can drink some green beer, Irish car bombs, all that stuff. And love St. Patty's Day. I make a really good corned beef that I cook for Reuben sandwiches. It's fantastic. So love this time of year. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Appreciate everyone coming by to the live stream, y'all being here, all the comments, likes, subscribes, everything. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Hope you enjoyed the live stream. Comment below. What do you agree? Excuse me. I started to talk as I had a cough. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? As far as where the market is right now, what's your plan or strategy? Again, I want this channel, this place to be a community for us. And so, if you're feeling overall bearish, please say why. But yeah, thank you all for being here. And I hope you have a fantastic Friday. Take care.